many years now, we have had a missionary aviator, or someone involved with how Jesus uses airplanes for the sake of the gospel. Many years, and we're glad to have Craig with us this morning. And with no further ado, let me introduce Craig Talsma. Craig comes to us, and he'll share his ministry and how God is using him, and I will hand that right over to you.
That song, With the Gold, reminds me of the joke of the guy who was buried with all his gold, because he wanted to take it with him. And someone says, and he got to heaven, and they said, "Why did you bring all this road pavers with you when you got here?" So anyway, I always thought that was kind of funny. The other thing that I was thinking about when the pastor was talking about your picnic, my dad's 93 years old and lives in a nursing home, and I'm privileged to be able to see him, a couple of times, maybe every other day is how it usually works out. And he was born in Rudyard, Michigan, which is in the UP of Michigan, kind of up around that way. And he was talking the other day, and he has talked quite a bit about it, the church picnic that he went to when he was a little boy. And I thought, here's a guy who's 93 years old, and he's remembering something that happened, maybe 90 years ago or 85 or whatever years ago, and how important it was to him. So church is always important. It's a wonderful thing to do, but sometimes those picnics are really what you remember, just the good times that happened. So I thank you for letting me come and talk to you today. The Mission Aviation Fellowship, we've been blessed to be at EAA, and this is my second year here. It would have been my third, but you know how it happened last year. But we were really pleased and blessed to be here. Massa organizes a tent, and so that we were able to have a great place to go and a wonderful place to be fed. They feed all the missionary pilots and support team that are there, and so we're just blessed to be at EAA. And while we were there, we had a plane that we have. It's called a Kodiak, and it's made in Idaho specifically for pilots. For in the mission field is what it was developed for, and we were blessed to have that there. And we're right next to JARS, which is another mission, and they have a helicopter and a couple of planes there. So we had a really good presence with a lot of aircraft, which is what really people like when they're at EAA. They want to come and see it. And our plane, the helicopters, and the other planes they could sit in, and just a wonderful thing for kids. So we were super blessed to be there and to experience that. So, and it's also a blessing to be here and talk to you too. So thank you very much. Mission Aviation Fellowship just celebrated their 75th year. So we've been around how it was developed, and you may know this, but pilots coming back from World War II, particularly ones who flew in Indonesia, and they'd look down and see all these little tiny villages sprinkled throughout the wilderness of Indonesia. And they'd say, "Man, I bet you those people have never been, never heard about Jesus Christ." And so they thought, well, how can we get to those people? Because it takes weeks, maybe sometimes months to walk to them. And if you can go by river, that might take a week. So they thought, we've been flying these airplanes over them. Why can't we just fly them and stop there? So they devised ways to make runways. They have villagers make runways, and so that they could start servicing these local villages. And then as missionaries would go in there, they could start translating the Bible into their heart language. So, which is really important. And a lot of people say, well, you guys, missionaries are going in, you're ruining all these people, and you're taking away all their customs, and you're making, and really, we never go where we're not invited. And B, what we really want to do is help translators who are, bringing the Bible into their language. So like for example, we were talking, and one of the missionaries who was in Ecuador, and actually he was a little boy when Nate Saint was there. His name's Gene Jordan. In fact, I've got one of his books that I'll talk about in a minute. But he was talking to somebody and said, "Oh, we only use the King James Bible, and we don't use any other versions because none of them are accurate." And so he said to them, he said, "Well, if we go to this village, and they don't have doors on their huts. So there's nothing to knock on. So we can't say, behold, I come to your door and knock, or beholdeth, I come to thy door and knocketh, we can't say that because they don't know what it means. So what we have to do is we say, I'm coming up your path and I'm clapping so that you know I'm here. And because that's how visitors announce their way, they clap and they let people know that they're coming. So it's just been a wonderful thing that they can make the Bible in their language and use their wordage, I guess would be the best way to put it. My host family was saying that one tribe, their liver is the center of their being. So you can't say, it's my heart. You have to say my liver. So you have to, when you're translating the Bible, you have to use that. So anyway, so that's just a little preamble there. But a minute, who's got a phone? I'm glad it's not mine. That would have been terrible. Anyway, Mission Aviation is divided up into, there's really three components. There's Mission Aviation US, Mission Aviation Fellowship US, which is what I'm a part of, and we're based out of Nampa, Idaho. There's Mission Aviation International, which is based out of England, and that's comprised of, MAF Netherlands, UK, all sorts of them, and then there's MAF Canada. So there's three of them. And we've always shared the similar logo. We've had red and white and blue planes, and I should say blue, red, and white, so I don't make it patriotic. But we've had those colored planes, and our logos have been pretty much the same. But our mission statements have always changed, and our vision statements have always been different. So all those organizations got together and they said, we'd like to, have one vision statement for all the organizations and one mission statement for all the organizations. So the vision statement they have is kind of just it's just a shortened version of what we had before, and it's to see isolated people changed by the love of Jesus Christ. And so that's what our goal is, and that's always been MAF's goal, is to reach out to people who are isolated, and they may not be in Indonesia or Mexico or Afghanistan or who knows where. They might be somewhere else. They might be here in Wisconsin or in Michigan or Nampa or whatever. So we try to, even though all our bases are overseas, our training takes place in Nampa, but everything's overseas. We still try and focus on people who need, who are isolated here in the United States. So, but our mission statement, they changed that quite a bit, and it's working together to bring help, hope, and healing through aviation. So that's kind of what all the organizations are working on. So what I thought I'd do is I'd kind of break that down. So it's working or serving together to bring help, hope, and healing through aviation. So our first one is serving together. And the Bible verse that I chose for that kind of just represents that, is Matthew 4:18 through 21. And there's one comment, and this, if my call to action, at the end of the service, if I forget to say it, there's a component in here that says, at once they followed him. And can you imagine, at once? You think about the rich man who said, what must I do to be saved? And, well, you do this, that, and then, oh, okay, and he walked away and he was sad. But Jesus walks by these guys, and maybe they knew him, maybe they didn't, but he said, you guys come and follow me, and they did right away. And I thought that was amazing. So Matthew 4:18 through 21, as Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon called Peter and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, and they were fishermen. Come follow me, Jesus said, and I will make you fishers of men. And once they followed him, well, I almost blew my line. At once they followed him. Going on from there, he saw two brothers, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. They were in a boat with their father, Zebedee, preparing the nets. Jesus called them. So we're serving together. Mission Aviation, our overall theme of what we really want to portray as our, if you have a visual picture of what MAF is a fishing boat, and not nowadays, where you have your nice bass boat with a huge engine in it and a little, not that kind of boat, but the kind that they had back in the biblical days, where it's a big, huge wooden boat, and then there's a whole bunch of guys on there pulling up the net. And so the experience back there is not just the guy who are pulling up the net, but it's the person who mends the net. It's the person who fixes the boat, and it's all the people who are involved in it. So we have it, not just the pilots are the important ones, not just the mechanics like Phil back there are the important ones, although they're really important. I mean, the pilots, yeah, okay, but the mechanics, you have to have the planes be able to fly. So it's not just them, but it's the support people. It's the people who support missionaries, and what a great thing your church, supporting all those missionaries that you're talking about. I thought, what a blessing that is. So anyway, that's kind of our visual of what we do. So everyone's involved in it. Everyone's, helping to clean fish. Everyone's pulling up the net. And so that's our visual. So we're serving together. And the next part is, can you hear me okay? Am I causing? So, okay. The next part is to bring, and I just chose Romans 10, verse 15. And how can they preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. So I had a little video of, we have a group of people in Lesotho, and unfortunately we couldn't get it to work, but so I'll act it out. No, not really. I'm just kidding. But it was, we have, in Lesotho is a little country inside of South Africa, and its elevation is really high. And there is an organization, a group of local pastors there, and they're called the Flying Pastors. And what we're privileged to do is work with them, and we fly them into a village. And then the pilot will go with them as they walk around from village to village, and they talk to different people. And these people are really, animals. They're shepherds, but they're really into worshiping animals. They're really into, ancestor worship. And a lot of times, if someone that becomes a Christian in the family, they think the whole family could die because their ancestors will be mad at them. So a lot of times, if a wife will become a Christian, the husband wants to kill her, or their daughter becomes a Christian, the family wants to kill her. So it's pretty tough, a little bit hard. So these walking pastors go around, and then they try and start churches and get people interested in the Lord. And they've had great success, and it's been wonderful. And we're finding that as time goes by, missionaries who are indigenous, who are local, are really starting to take over. And whereas we went in there and we translated, we did this, a lot of people are buying into it, and they're saying, this is awesome, we need to do this ourselves. So we could support these flying pastors. So it's a wonderful mission, and these guys just do a really great job. So that would be our to bring. So we bring the flying pastors, and they bring the good news to the people. There's a WhatsApp that they post on that you can read about what they do, and it's amazing. Every week they do a list of things to pray for, and it's pray for so and so who's was a Christian, but now they don't want to be anymore, and just those kinds of things. And it's really an amazing ministry, and we're just blessed to be part of that. So we have serving together to bring help, hope, and healing through aviation. So we're to help. So I chose Hebrews 6:10. God is not unjust; He will not forget your work and the love you have shown Him as you helped His people and continue to help them. There's a school in Michigan called SMAT, School of Missionary Aviation Technology. And they had a booth right next door to ours. And so what they do is they encourage students to come there, and rather than having a 2-year or a 4-year degree to get your AP, they do it in 1 year, 1 full year, and they're done. And then they can also do the same with a pilot license. So we have a lot of pilots and mechanics who went to SMAT. In fact, how I became involved in MAF is when I got the bug to learn how to fly a long time ago. And 2 of the kids who had just graduated from SMAT with A&Ps, and they already have their pilots, were building up hours teaching people how to fly. Because when they come to work for us, they need to have almost 1,000 hours of flying experience already, which is, if you think of 1,000 hours, that'd be like a lot, driving around the country or whatever, and you're in an airplane. So these 2 guys were telling me about MAF and, saying how great it was and how awesome it was, and then they wouldn't teach me how to land until I promised to support them. No, not really. I'm just kidding about it. Well, that's an old joke. Sorry about that. But anyway, so Ricky and Pete were just wonderful guys, and when I started flying, it was almost a disappointment to go by myself because I said, I miss Ricky and Pete telling me about, stories about what they're going to do and things like that. So anyway, so they went to that school, and one of the videos I'll show is of this young lady who is a Lesothian, and she was born in a little rock hut and lived there, in amongst all the ancestral worship and so on. And then she started volunteering in our hangar. And so now they've raised money, so they're going to send her and two others, Zachary Francois, who's from Haiti, who's already gone to SMAT 1 year, and now he's going to go back and get his his flying license. And then a Mexican, Juan Rivera, and his wife are going to go there too. So we're supporting 3 people from their countries to go, and Zachary's just an amazing kid. He's just super, talented and everything. We're just blessed to have him. But this young lady is just amazing. Phil, do I need to do anything to start this, or just push the button? Oh, yeah, okay. It's the video. There it is, maybe.
I am Mantlibi Mafa. I am an apprentice mechanic. I first heard about MAF when I was seeking internship. When I was here, I didn't know anything about airplanes. I hadn't even been on an airplane before. My first flight was with MAF, and it was great. I didn't know how good it felt up there. After that flight, I felt very much closer to God than I've ever been when I'm working here. The welcome that I received here as a student, it was awesome. Everyone has been kind to the student who didn't know anything about airplanes, and everyone was just so patient with me. I had so many questions to ask. What is this? What does it do? How do I use it? And they were just patient enough to show me and teach me and explain. That was beautiful. Here I got to grow working for MAF, doing what I love, being much more closer to God and learning and knowing more and more about Him. That's the greatest blessing. Every time I hold a screwdriver or a wrench, I know that what I'm doing, I'm also serving. And by the time that airplane gets out of maintenance, it's going to either save a life or deliver the good news of Jesus safely. And that's what's important, knowing that the job that I have done has come to be of good, knowing that somebody is saved, either physically or spiritually. And that is a very big blessing. To know these people from America and understand them better, and they to understand better, to learn our language, to learn what we do, what we love. I think that was amazing, that they were so selfless. It's always been a dream. Like when I was growing up, I would see an airplane in the sky and wave and say, please bring me candy. I didn't know that one day I would be actually fixing them. And it's wonderful that we get the opportunity for training and actually touching these birds, not just waving at them from the sky. It's like making a child's dream come true, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, I can hardly even watch that without getting teary. I don't know why, but I do. So we have serving together to bring help, hope, and healing through aviation, so we're to hope. So my verse for that is Isaiah 40:31. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. I mentioned a little bit about Gene Jordan. Gene Jordan is a nut. You know, he's the funniest guy. He's an Ecuadorian missionary. He flew there a long time and just has some of the funniest stories that you've ever heard. Like when somebody came to it by said, did you ever see the movie about, I'm trying to think of what the name of it is now. It's about the Coke bottle that falls out of the airplane, to the villagers below. And I said, well, there's a funny story Gene has about that. He's back in the day, he was flying a plane called a 185, and it's a tail dragging plane with a pod underneath it. And all the pods on our planes now, the little storage compartments underneath it that are added, after the airplanes are made, all have doors on the side. But this one had one on the back that kind of opened like just flipped down. So he was in one village, and animals are really important to these people, and pigs particularly. So the village leader said, we need to bring my pig to the next village. And so they bundled it up. It's alive, believe it or not. And so they bundle it up and tie it all up and get it ready. They put it in that pod because they don't want it in the airplane. So they put it in the pod, and they're flying along at 9,000 feet or so. And all of a sudden they hear, down below, and the pig somehow got out. So he's bombing around down in this little pod, and then somehow he opened that door and fell out of the door. So, it's not a Coke bottle, but it would be like a 300-pound pig falling from the sky from 10,000 feet. So he says, I always wonder what happened to that pig. But anyway, but Gene, I don't know if you know the history of MAF, but we have two stars, really, of MAF, and one is Betty Green, and she was our first pilot, female pilot. Awesome pilot. She was a WASP. She flew B-17s and everything else that they made for World War II. And then we hired her, and she flew the first Wycliffe translators down to Mexico. So that was our first maiden flight of a mission. She was the first to do all sorts of things. She flew over the Andes, first any pilot to do it. She flew first woman to fly in Africa, and just amazing. The other star was Nate Saint. And he did amazing things too, but his claim to fame is he was martyred by the Waodani Indians in Ecuador. And Gene Jordan wrote this little book. It had it illustrated by another friend of his. And just kind of read a little bit of this. And I'll leave this book here for your library if you'd like to. It's even autographed. So the airplane, when they talk about airplanes, the numbers that are on the side of the airplane, they usually give it it's numbers and a word sometimes. And this little plane, Nate Saint's little Piper, was 5.6 Henry. So 56 Henry is what they labeled it. So this picture right here, 56 Henry is this is after the Waodanis attacked the five guys and killed them, Nate Saint and Jim Elliott and Ed and the others, and left them to die. And actually one of them, I think Ed had a gun, but he just didn't use it. They just let themselves be killed. So they killed the missionaries and they demolished the plane. So 5.6 Henry's crumbled on the beach with a broken heart. He knew he was really good at landing on the beach, but now he would never fly in the jungle again. Excuse me, he really wanted to be part of telling these people how much Jesus loved them, but now his flying days were over. God's job for 5.6 Henry was done. So, after the natives left, 5.6 Henry thought about his service to others, how he loved helping people, flying them quickly over the jungle, how he especially enjoyed taking patients to the hospital where they could get help. And the MAF gets to do that a lot. We have stories, all the missionaries have great stories. They tell about, there's a woman who gave birth to twins and didn't deliver the placenta, so they needed to get her out of there. And then they wanted to kill one of the twins because in Indonesia, in Ecuador, no, this was in Indonesia. In Indonesia, twins are bad luck, so you kill the first one. And so they would throw them in the river or whatever and then keep the other one. And so they had that battle. So we were fortunate to be able to bring the mother and the two kids to Santani, to a big hospital to help her medically, and then they also saved the two kids too. So anyway, so even though these people killed Nate Saint and his fellow missionaries and wrecked the plane, God still has a plan for these people. And we were privileged to go into this jungle, and we actually stayed overnight in their village. And it's just amazing how they've transformed. With Jim Elliott's wife and Nate's sister went in there, and I don't know, with today's TV shows, everything's revenge. You know, you killed my dog, I'm gonna kill 1,000,000 people. You stepped on my toe, I'm gonna, wreck your car, whatever, that's what they seem to be. But these people, you killed my husband, killed my brother, I'm gonna come in and see if I can, win you over to Christ. So a few years after the missionary men were killed, the pilot's sister and one of the missionaries' men's wives walked a long way into the muddy jungle until they reached the village. They learned to speak the language and they translated the Bible. And when we went there, we got to meet a lot of the people who had come to Christ. And for those that say, well, we ruined their culture was going to another village and killing everybody. That's how they lived. They just would do that all the time. So anyway, so that was hope. Healing. How are we doing for time? We doing okay? Okay. Because you said I could go till 3, right? Just kidding. Anyway, Isaiah 38:16. Lord, by such things men live, and my spirit finds life in them too. You restored me to health and let me live. So, see, I have let me see if I can get these pictures to work. I have to get this thing fired back. Oh, point it there. Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. Okay. We have a pilot named Alex Ludvicek, and I think he's Irish, but I'm not sure. But anyway, wonderful guy. And he gave a great chapel, and that's kind of what I'm basing this on, because he used a lot of his own stories. But he flew, and here we call it PK Max, and this is the Kodiak. This is like the one we have at the air show if you happen to stop by and see it. But it's a 10-passenger plane. It hauls tons of cargo, 4x8 sheets, and just a beautiful plane, and it just serves the community so well of Sentani and all the environs in Indonesia. And he was landing in this remote village, and there's an organization called the Indonesian Liberation Army, and they're not too excited about the government there. So they, get it? I can't do it. Oh, there it is. So they pulled Alex out of the plane and threatened to kill him. These PLO guys, and when he landed in this one village, not PLO, but Indonesian Liberation Organization, and they threatened to kill him. And the priest or the minister in the village wrapped his arms around him, said, "You can't kill him. If you kill him, you kill me." So essentially saved his life. But in the meantime, that plane you just saw earlier, there it is, PK Max. You can see it. They just burned it up. So our planes are they're made, they're expensive, but then we equip them and they're very expensive. So it was a sad day for that, but a wonderful day that Alex made it. But just like the story of the Waudanis and the minister said, you're never going to come back, are you, to our village? And Alex said, "No, I'll leave you." He left his hat. And he said, "No, I'll come back and get my hat." So I promise I'll come back and get it. So we have to move the plane because it's sitting right in the middle of the runway. But so that's that plane. Alex, he was miraculously, his phone survived. One of the villagers brought it to him and said, "Do you need this?" And it was his phone. So he was able to call. There was a plane circling overhead, one of ours, that kind of wondering what's going on. And so he was able to walk out, and that helicopter from Helavita just happened to go exactly right where he was and picked him up. And it was truly a miracle that he was saved. So he's the one with the bare feet and 2 little boys. And during a chapel, he was talking, and he said his biggest fear during the whole thing, he said, he was afraid a little bit, but he said, Dave Holston, who's our president, and he's a friend of his, is going to make me fly with my 2 little boys all the way back to the United States, which is like a 25-hour flight on a commercial plane with two little guys, you know. So anyway, he survived. He did come back and gave a chaplain and survived the long flight. So we were blessed with that. But he told a story. There's an orphanage in Sentani or nearby where a lot of orphans are just throwaways in most countries, really, in Indonesia especially. So they have these orphans and they teach them. And one of the kids who they really love and they brought to their house a bunch of times, his family is part of this Indonesian Liberation Organization. And they still love him. And they're still helping him. In fact, he's going to school and he's going to go to Moody Aviation later on this year. So it's, even though things are bad, we still, we don't want to take revenge, even though we lost a plane, even though we almost lost a pilot. We want to bring people to Christ. So that's our healing. So we have help, hope, and healing through aviation. Philippians 1:4-5. And this was kind of our theme verse for our 75th anniversary. In all our prayers for you, I always pray with joy because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until last. So I'll show this little video here and then that was kind of our theme video, and I think it's on our website too, so maf.org. So anyway, if I could just offer a prayer. Thank you very much for letting me come, and if you have any questions, I can hang around afterwards and answer that, and then I'll turn it over to you when I'm done praying. So Father, thank you so very, very much for this wonderful church that supports missions and tolerate the people coming in and maybe bumbling through a presentation, but Lord, their hearts are just beautiful to you, and we're so grateful for that. Thank you for MAF and bless our mission, Lord, and thank you for the partnership that we have with this church and with people all over the world, Lord. We're so grateful that you are just excited about reaching us and bringing us to you. And we just ask these things in your name. Amen.